August 8, 1980. Should we have a firm conviction that there is a state beyond the consciousness? The Absolute is there in any case, so there is no question of your having faith. It is there. Would a firm conviction change the consciousness into the Absolute? There is only one state, not two. When the I Amness is there, in that consciousness you will have many experiences, but the I Am and the Absolute are not two. In the Absolute, the I Amness comes and then the experience takes place. In the Absolute, there is no individuality, no memory that I am this or that, but there is a continual stirring. I have nothing to say which can be termed as hearsay, or which has been read or has authority from the Scriptures. What I have to say is coming out of my own self. Whatever is happening from the Absolute standpoint without the knowledge I am is very profound, unlimited, expansive. In the realm of beingness, the fragmentation begins. It is limited, conditioned, because in this beingness we try to claim all the actions as ours. In the Absolute, I have no occasion to say that I exist, because it is in eternity. I do not have to make any comments about my existence. Because of the existence of the Absolute Parabrahman state, a lot of incarnations have come and gone, but the Absolute remains untainted by the movement of all these incarnations. What is the purpose of the creation? This is the language of the earnest seeker, not one who is established in the truth. Out of an infinitesimal seed, a magnificent tree has grown. Will the seed reject the tree, the branches, the leaves, etc., asserting that it is not me, not mine? Spontaneously it is going on. Let it go on. Is this I Amness a necessary threshold to obtain that Absolute state? The Absolute state cannot be obtained. That is your state. To the Absolute state, the witnessing of the consciousness happens. How long must one practice? How long did you practice to become a woman? The first stage is to transcend this body-mind sense. It is easy, but to transcend consciousness is very difficult. Beingness is a very powerful potential knowledge. Because of that, you have all other knowledge. Therefore, it is difficult to get rid of this knowledge. Is it separate from the unmanifest? From your point of view, it is separate. From my standpoint, it is not separate. Sri Krishna said that whatever is myself only. Saguna and Nirguna, both myself only. This touch of beingness is a temporary phase. Inquire at that point, how did this beingness happen to be? August 21st, 1980. I am not very keen on having people stay longer than 8 or 10 days. Whatever they have understood, they have to digest. Any further talks will not reach them. Presuming that one is knowledgeable having left here and gone elsewhere, he will not be able to remain alone. He will crave somebody's company so that he can deliver the goods of spirituality. He will want the company of others with whom he can discuss spirituality. Otherwise, he will feel very unhappy. Will you feel happy and satisfied if you do not encounter other sadhakas? Oh yes. Is this a necessary threshold for a serious seeker to go through the stage where he would like to share his knowledge with others? That is part of it, but that must also come to an end. The highest state is the unborn state in which there is no experience of mind. Investigate that concept, I am. In the process of finding your true identity, you might even give up the self, and in giving up the self, you are that. The consciousness in that sparrow on the windowsill and the consciousness indwelling this body is the same. Here the instrument is big, there it is smaller. They, the sparrows, are planning for food. Their tummies are not full. All the species are suffering. Creation itself is suffering. All these concepts about rebirth, etc. Has the rain rebirth? the fire, the air. In short, it is a mere transformation of the 5 elements. You may call it rebirth. In the process of this spiritual search, all will happen in the realm of this consciousness. You finally stumble on or culminate into the absolute Parabrahman state, which is desireless. I have understood and transcended beingness. Suppose I live for 100 more years, waking state, sleep, and I amness. What is the use of that? I am fed up with that. I don't have any exclusive identity for myself. Whatever identity I have is the play of the 5 elements, and it is universal. Since there is not much that can be said from my state, I will not be keeping people long. I will just dole out some knowledge and tell them to go. With this profound knowledge at this level, they are not able to understand. What benefit can they derive? August 23, 1980. Some people I will request to stay, but I cannot explain why, and some people, although they would like to stay, I say, you go. There are various types of seekers. Some come exclusively for knowledge, and are not interested in the person who delivers, perhaps least interested in him. Some people want knowledge, but for them the prior requisite is Guru Bhakti. Devotion to the Guru comes first. After that they collect knowledge. There are some great sages who in their seeking stage used to do devotion or worship of a god only for namesake. But the intensity was devotion to the Guru, and because of the intense Guru Bhakti they reached such a high state. Now, for this lady, devotion to the Guru is predominant, and she gets knowledge incidentally. But starting with the Guru Bhakti, to such a person, even the god is devoted. Whatever natural experiences you encounter, just accept them. Don't try to alter them. Just accept them as they come. The sum total of all this is illusion, and nobody is responsible for creation. It has come spontaneously, and there is no question of improvement in that. It will go on in its own way. I have come to the conclusion that the world is there spontaneously without any seed. That creation is seedless, but the world is full of seeds, and procreation is going on daily. Having knowledge, how is it that you have been able to deal with all these different persons? Who is to deal? I have no pose or stance, no set form of my own. If I had a set form, it would have been difficult to accept or coalesce with anybody. But my nothingness is the subtlest, so I can fit into anything, any situation. Suppose a rich man wearing a lot of expensive ornaments moves in the street. He will be afraid. He will be in danger. But a naked faker has nothing to lose, so he moves in the streets without fear. So, having lost everything, I have nothing further to lose. I can encounter and fit into any situation. So long as you wear a name and form, all these problems will be there. In the spiritual pursuit, you gradually lose your form. As the form is shed off, the name also disappears. There are many customers to gain and possess something in the name of spiritual knowledge, but nobody is a customer for the real, true self-knowledge. There was a man who worked hard and gathered possessions for many years, and now he is on his deathbed in his village house. On his deathbed, he was looking into the cattle shed. He was not thinking noble thoughts. He was looking at the calf who was chewing a broomstick, and he was worried about the damage to the broomstick. So even when he was dying, he was shouting, "The broomstick! The broomstick!" What is the yardstick to measure the progress of a seeker? There was a very weak man who was not able to walk. Gradually he acquired strength and started walking. So he knows that he has the strength, isn't that so? The indication of your progress is your disinclination to associate with normal people. Your desires and expectations get less and less. When out of intense hunger for self-knowledge the door or the floodgate is opened, then you start rejecting everything, right from the gross state to Iswara state. Your own consciousness, you reject everything. In worldly life, by the power of money, you can purchase anything. By donating money, you get everything. Similarly, By donating the self, you get the Brahman, and when you donate the Brahman, you get Parabrahman. You must have a deep, intense desire for self-knowledge. April 24th, 1980. If Chaitanya, consciousness, is all-pervading and consists of all these powers of various kinds, and yet the individual consciousness is connected with the body, for this universal consciousness, is there a body? A universal body, or a combination of bodies for the universal consciousness? Universal consciousness does not have a body. The universal consciousness becomes manifest whenever a body comes into the picture. The essence of the 5 elements constitute the sustenance of the universal consciousness. The universal consciousness and the consciousness in the body, does it have any connection? It is an intimate connection. It is a continuum from the individual consciousness to the manifest consciousness. For example, you have the vital breath. Outside, it is called universal air, and when you breathe, it is your pram. What is the difference between Paramatman and Jivatman? When you think in terms of parts, you think of Jiva, and of the whole as Paramatman, but there is no difference. When it is entrenched in the body, it assumes a temporality, a time unit, the Jiva. At the end of the time span, it merges into the Paramatman. Why does Paramatman, which is whole, limit itself to the body as a part? There is no reason for it, it just happens. But in the Paramatman, there is no awareness of existence. There is awareness of awareness only. As soon as awareness of existence comes, there is a duality, and the manifestation comes. Earlier, someone said that man alone can realize. I feel that every living cell is a manifestation of God, and therefore that this is a wrong idea. The consciousness is the same, but the mind can only work according to what is known to it. What is known to the lower creatures is only the basic physical requirements. It is only man who from an early age has been thinking of and has been fed higher ideas other than merely the physical aspects. Man is able to fly and go to the moon. No other species can do this. The mind of the lesser species is limited. There are 84 lots of different species. As soon as any conception takes place in any of these species, there is a sort of a causal body on which the print has been made at the time of conception about the nature of the form and its working. Nobody tells a bird to fly, a fish to swim, or a worm to crawl. It is all in the conception itself. That which cannot die is now firmly convinced that it is going to die. How has this fear of death crept in? It is based on the concept that one is born, on mere words. This is the bondage. All that one has to do is find out one's source and take up headquarters there. August 29, 1980. After knowing that one is not the beingness still wants to be. It protects itself. Is it built into that unit? Yes, that is its nature. Is it that these units of beingness are of no more value than a picture? They are just like a picture on a TV screen. Is that right? Yes, you may take it that they are just pictures. Nevertheless, it is a most amazing instrument because inside it has a certain principle which contains the universe. Don't just dismiss it as a picture. The self cannot experience its knowingness without the help of the body. It is a necessary instrument. Sour food and pulsation, vital breath. Without these, the growth is not there, and beingness will not be there. The body is a bag of nourishment, but the knowledge I am is not individualistic. It is universal. Is it the consciousness enjoying itself through all these units of beingness? Yes, this beingness goes into individuality because of the form of the food package, the body. From my standpoint, it is dynamic, manifest beingness only, no individuality. Once you take to this understanding, there is no question of enjoying yourself as an individual. You are no more an individual. The individual is dissolved. A rare one will do this. The one who has understood all the 5 elements and its play is not worried about the essence of these 5 elements, the beingness. This state is transcended also. That one has the fragrance of humanity. He remembers humanity, but knows that he has nothing to do with humanity. Having understood this and transcended it, the words are of no use. The beingness feels that it should not die, but if the so-called death has occurred, there is no loss to it. From my standpoint, whatever beingness in the form of a human being was there is all gone. Because of that dissolution, it has become manifest. August 30th, 1980. Does the consciousness remain forever? No, the consciousness is there only so long as the body is there. Even when one understands, will there be bodies coming into existence and dying? Yes, the 5 elements, the 3 gunas, Prakriti and Purusha, together are the means of demonstrating the I amness. In the original state, there is no sense of consciousness, no awareness of being. But as soon as the I amness comes, the entire manifestation is seen at once. This is the expression of the consciousness. In the Absolute, the I amness is whole, but the expression is in many. I manifest myself in many. Human beings are one type of form, and each type of form will act according to its nature, according to the combination of the 3 guns. How can an individual come in? The only way to understand this mystery is to realize your identity with the universal consciousness, which is expressed in the total space. So long as you identify yourself with the human form, it is impossible for the mystery to be solved. Why do you come here and waste your time for an hour or so? If you do some physical or mental work for 2 hours, you would have something to show for it. These are the hours that are useful. All the others are useless. How can they be useful? I am destroying that for which you say these 2 hours are useful. I am destroying the identity. Isn't it amusing that the teaching which destroys the individual is exactly what the individual wants? The answer is that there never was an individual. The knowledge comes that the individual was never there. What is the realization? Before the idea I am sprouted, you are, but you don't know you are. Subsequent to that, there have been many happenings with which you have started decorating yourself. You try to derive the meaning of yourself out of subsequent words, happenings and the meaning of words. That is not you. Give it up. You are prior to the idea I am. Camp yourself there, prior to the words I am. September 11th, 1980. Whether one be a jnani or an ignorant person, his bodily nourishment, sustenance, maintenance, etc., goes on through the meaning of the words of his mind. His thoughts will also flow according to the impressions he has received since childhood. The activities came out from the vital breath, the words, and the knowingness, I am. If you want to invoke your deity, you will have to worship the vital breath. Through the vital breath, you approach your deity. The image of any god is given through the vital breath. The language of the vital breath means words. When all aspects of the vital breath are purified, there is no scope for desires. There are no physical or mental sufferings. As per the command of the Guru, hold on to the I amness, the Atman Prin, my love. All our activities, physical or spiritual, are based on emotion. All these details I accept, but I know that the sum total is 0. My earlier talks anybody could understand to some extent, but my present talks are very difficult to understand. To become qualified to understand, stay put at that source of your birth. The talks are spontaneously flowing out. I am not framing them. I myself am often amazed as to why these types of profound expressions are emerging, and people who listen to my talks are also nonplussed because they are not able to frame any questions based on my talks. Everything is spontaneous. The stage of witness also has come spontaneously. All my activities come out spontaneously. There is no scope for thinking. Since I know my state prior to birth, I also know that birth point. And that since birth, whatever I am, my beingness, I also know. That's why I talk like this. The experiencer and the experiences both are to be dissolved. The moment the translators come and I take my seat for talking, I am energized, my battery is charged. Otherwise I am down and out and have to use this cane. I am least inclined to collect any spiritual seekers of any grade. We can understand with our mind, but beyond mind we cannot understand. From deep sleep to waking state, what is it? It is the I am state with no words. Later the words start flowing, and you get involved with the meaning of the words and carry out your worldly life with the meaning of those words. That is mind. But before this I am and waking state, that borderline, there you have to be. It is only a rare one who understands what I am driving at. To a normal spiritual person, we have to say, you do this or that and you will get this benefit. Then for the time being he feels happy and relieved, but this is not final. He again comes back to the same cycle. But we can't help because he has no capacity to understand the subtlest aspect of this spirituality. At the most, I would say, you know you are. You worship that I am principle. You worship that, be one with that only. And I amness will disclose all the knowledge. That's all I will say. But the subtlest part is this, from deep sleep to waking state. To abide in that you must have an intensely peaceful state. In that state, witnessing of the waking state happens. You must go to that limit, but it is very difficult. For a normal person, with the arrival of the I am and the word flow, he will go with the word flow. The one who has discrimination, who is intelligent and is intensely spiritual, we must bring here prior to that I amness. If you have regard for me, remember my words. The knowledge I am is the greatest God. The Guru, be one with that, be intimate with it. That itself will bless you with all the knowledge relevant for you, and in the proliferation of that knowledge, it will lead you to the state which is eternal. You will become mature enough to be in that province of the nirguna state, without attributes. You cannot convert a raw mango into a ripe mango, full of juice, overnight. It must pass through the course of time to maturity. Is this clear to you or not? In meditation, when I try to stabilize at the point behind the mind, there is darkness, nothing, blankness. I don't like the state. Don't you see you are still there? Prior to stabilizing in the self, traces of the mind are still there. This machine is a self-generating machine. When you go into that, the momentum helps clear all doubts in your mind. This is exclusively your knowledge which you will enjoy most. And then all traces of the mind are completely uprooted. This is the stage where you are not. That is the borderline. The moment you know you are, duality is there. When you do not know you are perfect. But you must go through this process. In deep sleep, you do not know you are. But that is a grosser state. In this alive state, you must recede into the state of no knowingness. What is this knowingness? It is the stamp or registration of the booking I am. You are booking a flat which is under construction, but where is that flat? It is only the booking. Similarly, this I am is only booking. It represents your absolute state. What gives you the courage to transcend in the nothingness which you know is there? Your deep urge to understand the self. Receding only means to go within. Your normal inclination is to come out through the five senses and see the world. Now reverse. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not the senses. Now you are stabilized in consciousness. After stabilizing in consciousness, all further things will happen automatically. You expand into the manifest. I was, I am. I shall be in that original state before the I Amness came. Why is it that the terrible name of this disease has no effect on me? For the simple reason that what I am has nothing to do with that of which the disease is just a name. What does Maharaj think about all the different religions? As far as I am concerned, all religions are based on concepts and emotions. Those emotions are so violent and absorbing that people have immolated themselves. Being one with some other personality emotionally can be so effective that those who have identified themselves with Jesus Christ have had the marks of crucifixion appear on their own bodies. All these experiences are totally useless. One individual has identified with another individual, and unless individuality is given up, the reality can never manifest itself. Do not repeat what you have heard, parrot-wise, unless you have it with the conviction that I have. I know my state before the body and consciousness came. I have the knowledge of it. I have the awareness of it. Merely listening to these words will not do. You must be one with the consciousness. Don't treat that knowledge I am as insignificant, because it is the stimulating force for your entire universe. The expressions of consciousness are limitless. If you enter into the expressions, you will be lost. Surrender to and be one with your consciousness, and your consciousness alone will show you the process of how it can be dissolved. September 21st, 1980. All that one does is for the continuance of the consciousness. But for me there is nothing at all that I would like to continue. You come here as individuals expecting to get something from me. That is where the mistake arises. There is no individual, so how can I do something for a non-existing individual? Your true nature is in no way different from mine. This happening is just a happening which has come and which will go. If one feels he has to urinate, he just has to urinate. It is not something different for each one. It is a process of urination which happens to everybody, but you consider everything as something happening to you as an individual. Now, how can I understand what Maharaj is saying? Discrimination is very necessary to understand what I am saying. It is only after the arrival of consciousness that we try to understand ourselves. Consciousness is the so-called birth. Birth means the three aspects: waking state, deep sleep, and the knowledge I am. Once I understand what this birth is, then the whole mystery is solved. Since I have thoroughly known what this birth principle is, I will know very well if that happening of the so-called death. I shall observe the departure of the vital breath, the language, and the I Amness, and there is no question of death. If I understand right now that my vital breath is quitting, I am not going to arrest it. I am not going to say, "You stop now, wait for some time," because I know very well it is of no use retaining this vital breath and life force. Any number of dissolutions have come and gone, but in my true eternal state I am untouched by them. Prior to this experiential state I was perfect in every respect. With the arrival of this beingness, this imperfect state has started, and I am fed up with that. If you really want eternal peace, don't bother about anybody else. Worry about your own self. Investigate only your own self. Who is going to give you the eternal peace? It is only that sun that I am. If you embrace that self-effulgent sun, everything else will go, but you will prevail eternally. Investigate fully. With what authority can you sustain yourself? To what extent can you prolong your life? You should realize that beingness is not independent. It depends on something. When you investigate, you will come to the conclusion that you, the Absolute, do not depend on that beingness. If Atman is Sat Chit Ananda, being consciousness bliss, what is Paramatman? Sat Chit Ananda will in due course become the Paramatman. Sat Chit Ananda is I Amness, and is itself a state of bliss, a state of love. But it is an experiential state so long as consciousness is there. And consciousness is there so long as the body is available. It is a time-bound state. You must transcend the Satchitananda state. Should I stabilize in beingness, or should I flow with the thoughts? If you stay put in beingness, the thoughts will get less and less. If you get mixed up with the thoughts, they will multiply. Stay put in beingness only. September 24th, 1980. How many years back did you take the mantra from me? 3 years ago. The knowledge you are is God. You worship that, and one day you will realize that you are not an individual. You will realize that you are the universal consciousness, which cannot suffer. There is no pain or pleasure for that consciousness. Not through intellect, but through intense meditation, you will know it. The meditation will be done by that consciousness itself. To meditate on something is to become that. I am fully established in that unborn state, but still, I am experiencing this state of multiplicity, but it has no effect on me. What is the effect of being with the Maharaj? Presently, the effect on the seeker is more. If you have the purity, it is faster. For the impure and dull, it is slow. I didn't know I was. Presently, I know I am. This is the same I, with the knowingness mantle over it. This is the way the very Absolute transformed itself into this grosser consciousness state, the state of appearance. I am the God, I am the devotee, and I am worshipping. All the same, one common principle. Was the saint we were speaking of who was so irritable a Jnani? Yes, Jnani means knower of knowledge. How could he be so irritable if he was a Jnani? In the manifest consciousness, all the activities are happening, so-called good and bad. In the manifest consciousness, this quality was expressed. You cannot attribute this tasamic quality to a Jnani because he has transcended the individual consciousness. Is it all right to eat non-vegetarian food? So long as you feel that you are an individual, you have to abide by the code of conduct given to you. Once you are the manifest consciousness, there is no question of do's or don'ts. In the universal manifest consciousness, is there any good or bad? Nothing of the sort. The fragrance of flowers will be there. Garbage will be there. It is all the play of this consciousness. The witness of the consciousness cannot come in the realm of the consciousness. Suppose the witnessing stops. Is it samadhi? Suppose you all go away. There is no more witnessing. I am still here, but I have nothing to witness. In that beingness, the otherliness is there, and witnessing takes place. If consciousness is not there, the Absolute cannot know itself. There is nothing but the Absolute, therefore no witnessing. Suppose I am just watching that all actions are happening through me and I am doing nothing. Is meditation necessary? That is a sort of meditation, but the right meditation is when you meditate on yourself. You come to that state when you woke up in the morning and you watch the consciousness. That is the state when you meditate on yourself. Presently you think that consciousness is watching consciousness, but consciousness is being watched from the Absolute platform only. September 27th, 1980. All this spirituality is only for understanding your true nature. To achieve this, what is being alive, is the whole question. Once you know your true nature, then being alive is not as an individual, but being alive is simply being a part of that spontaneous manifestation. There is nothing to be sought. The seeker is what is to be seen. Merely see the picture as it is. All of you are seekers. Let me know what it is that you are seeking. Can you reach that, not just by meditation, but by living with others in the world? Unless you are part of the manifestation, can you live? Know this, when you are not conscious, your world does not exist. You are conscious of your presence and the world outside. They are not two things. Understand this. The world can exist only if this psychosomatic apparatus is there. If you consider this apparatus as yourself, you accept death and die. The yoni knows this to be just an apparatus and is apart from it. Having understood this, you do your job happily. What is happening is spontaneous, and all activity is part of the total manifestation. If manifestation is spontaneous, is there any reason or cause of all actions? In dreams you live for 100 years, but when you wake up, that dream lasted for just 5 minutes. How did that happen? Does Maharaj relate the causeless happening to that dream? The basic reason for all this great cause is that you exist. So find the nature of that. All these acts are done by the child of a barren woman. All these problems of consciousness. Find out the root of the consciousness. How? Catch that consciousness by the throat. Conceptual consciousness by conceptual throat. Pamper and woo this basic consciousness. It alone can satisfy your quest, not your intellect. Unless that knowledge is pleased, you cannot have knowledge. I never knew. If I had the slightest knowledge, would I have descended into the prison of my mother's womb? Whatever happens, happens by itself. Who can have knowledge of that which existed before conception? There is nothing to be acquired. You are that. Why so much attraction of the I amness for the body? When it expresses itself as I am, it is already fully charged with the love to be. Why, in the insect, worm, animal, or human being, this instinct to keep itself alive? Because with the sprouting of the life force, this I amness, that is itself the very instinct to live, to live, that love to be, is the prime motive force for all life's activities. You will find when you are the manifest consciousness, you alone are the multiplicity. You express yourself in all this ample manifest world. This state will itself be transcended, and you will be in the nirguna state. But these are all your expressions, only you, as I amness. What I am talking about now is more subtle and more profound and very difficult to understand. But if you understand, the job is done. Consciousness is an aid to know. Presently that consciousness knows itself as the body. It should not be so. Consciousness should know consciousness bereft of body sense. Understand logically what I have been telling you again and again. This I amness is the outcome of the food which I eat. Am I the food? No, I am not. The outcome of the food, I also am not. All will realize this knowledge, but presently you are caught up with this intimacy with the body. I amness has no authority of its own. It is a puppet in the play of the 5 elements. It is an outcome of the 5 elements. The one who expresses, I was not, its position is secure and stable and eternal. Whatever you witnessed will not remain with you. It is imperfect. The one who recognizes the imperfect is perfect. It is total. It has not to do anything for itself because it is perfect and complete in itself. Why can the Parabrahman afford to have this luxury or suffering of this manifest world? Because to the Parabrahman, this does not exist. September 30th, 1980. Oh, when will I understand what Maharaj is telling us? It will come gradually because of all the concepts. You have to get rid of those, and that takes time. Some people are in search of knowledge which is acceptable to their mind and intellect. But the sphere of the mind and intellect is of no use to receive this knowledge. All your experiences and visions depend on your knowledge, I am. And this itself is going to dissolve. For this knowledge there are no customers, no devotees, because they want something concrete in their hand. But when your knowingness itself is going to dissolve, is it possible to hold on to something? Your guru tells you that you have a true identity, but it is not this. It is formless Parabrahman. The Parabrahman is without any doubts. It is not conditioned by Maya, because with reference to Parabrahman, Maya does not exist. When you listen to this, you feel satisfaction, and with that, the matter ends for most people. They don't meditate on this again and again and try to find out that principle behind everything. When will I be pronounced dead? When the Atman has left the body. But I am not that Atman. Where's my death there? I'm not affected by cancer because whatever happens, whatever the experience, I surrender all those to Atman. All the actions and fruits of the actions are surrendered to the Atman by the Parabrahman, the Absolute. You can never have knowledge about yourself because Parabrahman cannot be witnessed. You know what you are not. What you are, you cannot know. October 1st, 1980. The self is subtler than the space. There is no birth or death for the self. Don't accept what I tell you blindly. Ask me questions. Thoroughly scrutinize and examine the knowledge which I expound, and only then accept it. You live in the house, but the house is not yourself. Similarly, the knowledge I am is in the body, but it is not the body. I do not fully understand it. With the mind you will never understand. You are not the mind, nor the words, nor the meaning of the words. I expound the knowledge of the self to the self, but you accept it as the knowledge of your body. I am completely detached from the body and the consciousness which is within the body. Nevertheless, because of this disease, the unbearable suffering of the body is being experienced through the consciousness. It is unbearable, but since I am detached both from the body and the consciousness, I am able to speak to you. It is something like the fan. The breeze is there and the sound is also there. In the same way, the vital breath is there and the sound is also emanating. But all this happening is unbearable. The suffering has to be endured. When the knowledge I am is not there, do you perceive or observe anything? Knowingness is knowledge, and no knowingness is also knowledge, but it has no form. If you equate with it the body, only then you say that you are a male or a female. In the absence of knowledge, the question of I know or I do not know does not arise. When you understand what I have said about knowledge, you will fully identify with that. Spontaneously, I have realized that I am written off from the book of consciousness. You will not feel happy unless you taste yourself through your body. The body has importance only because the I amness, the consciousness, is dwelling therein. If the I amness or consciousness is not there, the body will be disposed of as refuse. Call that knowledge I am as yourself. Don't call the body as knowledge. Normally the gurus will not introduce to you the self so deeply. They will only introduce you to all the rituals. The knowledge I am is the primary God. Meditate on that only. Presently one may ask why man has created a God. The concept of a God is, if you pray to such a God, that God will give you whatever you want. Such a God is great. We have an idea that if we demand something of him, he will give it. October 2nd, 1980. I want to give up this ego, but I do not know how. What is the measurement and the color of this ego that you want to give up? What have you understood about this ego? It is a false conviction of the mind. It is a pinch in my fingers, this I amness, but all the scriptures, the 16 sastras, 18 Puranas, and 4 Vedas have been screaming and shouting, trying to describe this Brahman. All those praises are only for that tiny little pinch I am. The moment you start making a design of that I amness, you are getting into deep waters. This incense holder is silver. You have the knowledge that it is silver. What is the shape, color, or design of that knowledge. If all knowledge is formless, could there be a form, design, or color to the knowledge I am? Could it be subject to sin or merit? In this timeless ether, the touch of I amness is not there. Is it not true that out of compassion for the ignorant, the Jnani expounds knowledge? You can say whatever you like. There is no such thing as compassion in that state. I have elevated you to that state where you should know that you are the very illuminant of everything, and the love to be is also therein. When I lead you there, why do you ask me such questions? How do you know anything? Through the mind? No, the knowingness recognizes the mind. The mind cannot recognize consciousness. You are overpowered by sleep. You wake up. Who recognizes this? Prior to the mind, the knowingness principle is there. Prior to knowingness, there is the priormost principle which knows the consciousness. In the final analysis, out of the absence of knowledge, knowledge was born and knowledge delivered the world, all beings and all things. The one who enters spirituality is like cold water which is put on the fire. When you put it on the fire, the bubbles start rising, and in due course it starts boiling. That boiling stage is something like the sadhaka entering the highest class of spirituality. At the boiling point, he likes to talk a lot, but a lot of questions. When the fire is applied continuously, the boiling stops and simmering takes place. That is the stage where one acquires knowledge in spirituality. After listening to these talks, will you be able to go into quietude? I have my doubts about that because you still like to please your pampered mind. If you have really understood what I say, does it matter if you please your mind or not? I have told you that presently you are like that warmth in the body. What is the Parabrahman like? The Parabrahman does not experience this warmth of I amness at all. If you understand, this puzzle will be solved for you. After understanding this, if one becomes a Jnani, that consciousness, principle, and body is available, and they will be involved in the emotional field also. It will give full vent to crying, and it will also enjoy whatever situation is there. Such a Jnani is not going to suppress any expressions of emotions which spontaneously come out of this consciousness and body apparatus. Normally, people suppose that a Jnani should suppress all the emotional outbursts. That is not correct. With your standpoint in the Absolute, you are not concerned with feelings and instinctive outbursts of the apparatus. A Jnani does not volitionally participate. It is spontaneously happening. While an ignorant person is deeply involved in that, he assumes everything is real. For the Jnani, the warmth is also unreal, so whatever happens in the realm of warmth is unreal. All devotion, liking, and love is dissolved for a Jnani, but whatever he does is for others. October 4th, 1980. What is the difference between my state and Maharaja's state? For the Jnani, there is no difference. The difference arises in the case of the ignorant because he is still identifying with the body. Give up the identification with the body and see what happens. How? I can only tell you, this is it. How to accept it is beyond me, and I have no remedy for that. I tell you, but you must understand it. Once and for all, if we take his words literally, is this all that is necessary? Yes, that is the one to be caught hold of. But what is the instrument with which you will catch hold of it? It is not the body, mind, and intelligence. The will, any effort you make will land you in further trouble. Therefore it is for this knowledge that you exist. To accept this knowledge, not the pseudo-identity. Just keep what you have heard from me in mind as true, and then act in whatever way arises spontaneously. My guru told me that I am timeless, spaceless, without attributes. Then I decided that if that is the case, why should I have any more fear? Who is to have fear? Suppose you meet a tiger. The tiger is going to eat you in any case, therefore, there is some chance that if you attack the tiger, it may run away. So why not take the chance? Why not try and disidentify yourself from the body? Whatever unhappiness you have, whatever fear you have, is based entirely on identification with the body. Make an effort gradually to disidentify yourself from the body. It is a simple thing. Death is inevitable. So why don't you accept what the Guru has told you, that death is something which cannot affect that which you are? This identification with the body is time-bound. Why not disassociate yourself now? How many of you will remember and understand what I tell you? Whatever fear you have is based only on memory, concepts, and hearsay. So long as you cling to any concept or memory, this fear will not leave you. Don't protect this fear. Give it up. Let it go. Can you do it? You have been accumulating what you have heard from me, but ultimately whatever is accumulated has to be given up. It is to be understood, used, and then given up. Maharaj says that everything has happened spontaneously, but we are accustomed to thinking that everything must have someone to start something, someone to control. Without this controlling authority, it is difficult to imagine anything functioning. In this state of duality, this idea has to be there. Otherwise, there can't be any concept or any functioning. This is the basis of manifestation. When ultimately the knowledge merges in knowledge, the seeker disappears, and there is no one to ask questions. What is being said and what is being heard is time-bound, from a particular time until today. But that which we are is totally separate from that which is time-bound. I can understand and measure this time duration, so I must obviously be separate from this duration. October 8, 1980, morning. All knowledge is available through the body, but this knowledge which you are, which is an outcome of the food body, is not you. This beingness itself is the love. It is most natural, and therefore I love all others because I love myself. The fountain of my love for others springs from the love to be. The unmanifest is manifest through that waking, dynamic, manifest spirit. That is the state of love to be. The wife is not devoted to the husband. She is devoted to that love to be. You have an earnest desire to be living in the body, but you have to dispose of this body. Just as you eat delicacies, and the next day you have to evacuate as fecal matter, in the same manner you have to dispose of this body. My own condition is complete manifest consciousness, and the expression of the body is only the sum and substance of the vital breath, the language of the vital breath, the words, and the love of self. There is no one thing like Paramatman, except I love. In that ecstasy, who is going to look at the body? Body becomes irrelevant. How many titles have been given to it? But what is it? Only that love for self. Always, forever. Your knowingness has been moving about, but you have limited it to your own body, and therefore you are killing it. Paramatman is not Maya. It is your real nature. What should one do about one's daily duties? You should attend to your duties. They are not personal. They are of the manifest consciousness. They belong to all. Try to expand yourself to infinity as the manifested consciousness. There is no other God but you. One day this body will drop dead. People think that death means completely unmanifest, but it is not so. It is not like that. When something is consumed or exhausted, it becomes more. It becomes manifest. Sri Krishna said, I reincarnate myself at every yuga, eon. But I say, every moment I expand. Evermore I am created. I proliferate more and more every moment. I never seek anything from anybody else. Whatever I want to get out of my own being. I worship that very principle I am and demand what I want out of that. Because of that, all these things are coming. His Majesty the Emperor has gone to sleep. It doesn't mean he is dead. You are not able to realize this knowledge because you hang on to the body. Only a self-realized guru can direct you. Without this body's sense, I am perfect, total, complete. You will not be able to comprehend my talk. October 8, 1980. Evening. What is the cause of the waking state, sleep, and I amness? The chemical. When you utter that word chemical, do you consider yourself to be that? I have studied that chemical thoroughly, and I am not that. Everything is contained in it, but it is not me. Just as this flame is the quality of the burning of gas, similarly, because of this chemical, there is the experience of the waking state, deep sleep and knowingness. They are not your qualities. Various names are given to the chemical, Mulamaya, Sutrapradam, etc. It is all illusion. There is no God, no individual soul, nothing. The primary illusion expresses itself through self-love, love for beingness. From deep sleep you wake up. Similarly, the disciple who considers the words of the guru as final and follows his words and does accordingly remains like that. Ultimately, he gets that knowledge of self. Just as you wake up from deep sleep, you get that knowledge, I love. Self-love. It merges into the Parabrahman unknowingly. When you meditate, you and that self-love should be one. There should not be any duality. The main problem with yanis, those who intellectually have this knowledge, is their attachment to their relations and their belongings. Nobody dies. Death means finished. For example, a drop of water, when it evaporates, has become infinite. There is no death for anything. Everything finishes to become infinite. The Purusha is that principle from which everything flows, all the manifestation. It is the support for everything. When you know something, you have to become that. In order to know God, you have to become that. In order to know that Purusha, you have to be that. Maharaj was speaking earlier of attachments. What about attachment to the guru? I find all other attachments are gone, but this remains. What do you mean, attachment to the guru? You and guru are one, not two. How am I to follow what Maharaj says when I have so many things to care for, family, etc.? Your consciousness alone is taking care of everything. Look at your consciousness as God. The first thing you do after waking up is to meditate on that consciousness, that I amness. Worship that consciousness for some time before you start your daily activities. Before you fall asleep at night, again abide in that consciousness, I amness. Be devoted to that, and in such a mood go into sleep. That consciousness which meditates on the self, that self will be revealed to you. People worship so many gods, but these gods are only concepts which have occurred to the mind. People say they want to save themselves. Say what? What are you trying to save? All your knowledge is dissolved here, so you can have no pride of being a yani when you leave here. October 14th, 1980. In the presence of the Maharaj, I feel there are no more questions. You feel that the doubts are dispelled. Still, the day is far off. Just wait. Can Swamiji suggest one thing so that we may enjoy eternal bliss? I have a very simple remedy, and that is that I am not the body. Had the world been real, there could have been some treatment, but it is not real. Whatever you do is of no use. Everywhere you see all this chaos, in spite of all the efforts. You cannot stop it. It is in a continual state of flux, and it is all unreal. After listening to my talks, do you acquire and store knowledge, or is whatever knowledge you had being dissolved? Becoming dissolved. Can I carry Maharaj to my home? I am just like the city of Bombay. Can you carry Bombay home with you? This experience of the world is happening to you spontaneously, not out of your efforts. Even your understanding of the guru must come spontaneously. Nothing will stop. All the process is going on without your effort. So many bodies are being created and dying. All actions for the running of the world are already happening. The process of creation of millions of bodies is already going on in the space. Out of the weeds, the grains have come. In those grains, the I amness is latently present. That phone message, hello, I am, hello, I am, is already there in that grain of food. If you create something out of your own efforts, only then can you destroy it. But this creation is not your effort. October 15th, 1980. There are many moments in my life when I don't like the situation and I want to change it. You may fight with the situation, but you are not the situation. When you start watching the mind, you know that you are apart from the mind, and you would not like to get involved with the fight of the mind, so naturally the friction will become less. In this process, you, as an individual, are not left at all. Try to understand that I am is a product of the saliva guna, food essence product. The friction is the fight between that quiet witness and the world. The fight began when the words began emanating from the consciousness. Words have come out of you, and you embrace those words. You become the champion of the meaning of those words which have come out of you. You have a mountain of concepts and words. To get rid of these, you use other concepts. When you throw out all concepts, including your primary concept, then whatever is. Stay put in quietude. Are words necessary, or is it just the presence of Maharaj? No doubt association with the sage is conducive to realization. Nevertheless, it must be followed up by questions and answers. There are always some doubts arising from the mind, so until all traces of mind are removed, you must clear them out by words. These days, when thoughts come, I just turn away. I feel I stop them now. If you can do this, it is all right, but if they are flowing, let them flow. Not being involved in your thoughts, is that enough? Yes, that is the only thing, and whatever has to happen will happen. The very doing you have given up. So it is no more necessary to try to change yourself, to try to do better things. When you don't hang on to thoughts, you are no more a person. It makes me a little scared. Everything can happen. I can do crazy things. This is a common stage. All people go through this. Fear is a quality of mind, and mind does not want to lose itself. Recite the Nama mantra. Hang on to the mantra, because this is a stage where the mind is losing all support. Therefore, you give it the support of the mantra. The things that I don't like in myself, they derive from a thought as well. So can I let go of them also? Yes. Don't say myself. That is also a thought. So in the end, it is as simple as that. It's just getting rid of thoughts. It's true. It is not a small achievement. You may feel that you are thought-free, but at some stage, thought will pounce on you suddenly. Many so-called sages, although they attained that thought-free state, still had their fall. October 17th, 1980. Just be as you are. Don't imagine or picturize. Your body and your image have changed continuously all during your life, and none of these images has remained constant. After 25 years, your body will give up this image and will have an old person's image. Later on, that image also will go. If these images had been real, they would have remained. They are unreal. The I am principle has no form, no color, no design. Through these designs we enjoy or suffer, but nothing is real. Any experience you get is not real, whether you are crying or laughing. This is the image for that moment only. The next moment, it will be changing. Some people are very good at weeping, crying, lamentation, only for that moment. So long as the body is there, this passing show will be there, continuously changing. And finally, that very consciousness through which you see the world will quit. The days are numbered of this body and consciousness. If I have not fully attained when I die, will I have another birth? If you go with that concept will have another birth. You don't know what form that concept will take. Only that person will be visiting me whose destiny is being fully exhausted. Nothing of his destiny will be left. You are a lady from some far-off country. Why should you be visiting this place? Because your destiny is being annihilated. November 7th, 1980. Consciousness is time-bound, so whatever I am, is it also time-bound? Or is there not something which is eternal? So long as the body is there, you are this consciousness. But once the body and the consciousness go, you are that original state upon which all this has come as a temporary state. Your original state is changeless and permanent. The difficulty comes because you are all searching for that, forgetting that that is what you are. You as the subject are seeking you as an object. You are what you are seeking. The moment there is a pose, there is fear. Anyone who has assumed a pose of a seeker will be bound to follow the traditional practices of a seeker and the limitations. What is the purpose of all that I am saying? It is a direct attack on identification with the body-mind. So long as that identification is there, my direct attacks will continue. Once disidentification with the body-mind takes place, Brahman will come with folded hands to your feet. Does this disidentification take place suddenly or gradually? It depends on how you look at it. If you are waiting for it, it will be gradual. When the last step is taken, it is sudden. When it does happen, you will realize the identity of the non-manifest and the manifest. They are one. There is no difference. The true knowledge can only come when all possible concepts have been given up and can only come from within. Parabrahman has no beginning and no end. It is eternal, whereas this consciousness is time-bound. It has a beginning and an end. Just as you wake up in the morning and come to know that you are, similarly this has happened. Because I am, I woke up. If I was not, how could I have woken up? Parabrahman comes to know that it is. The consciousness is how Parabrahman knows that it is. Parabrahman is your eternal state. You cannot remember it because you have not forgotten it. It is your daily experience. You know it. There is consciousness. There is no question of I. It is. The life force is in the grain, in a dormant condition. Understand that life force and do not condition it to any form. This beingness is not something which you can capture a handful of. It is manifest like space. It is all over. All this profound talk is nothing but mental entertainment. As you go further into spirituality, you will realize that I am is the very God or soul of an infinite number of universes. But that I am is again entertainment. All my talks are conceptual entertainment. November 10th, 1980. Up to what point in the past can my memory go? I was a small child, and I remember riding on the shoulder of someone, an elderly person. He was taking me on some hill, and I could see the sunrise. That is my first impression. Have you even given a thought to this? At what age did you get the knowledge of your own body? Suppose you started knowing yourself at the age of 4. Whatever actions took place prior to the age of 4 happened without your knowing, and there is no record in your memory of that. You have heard from others of things that happened, but you directly do not know. There is a scar, and it is said that I was bitten by somebody, but there is no memory of that. So many things happened before the child knew itself. In the first few years, the primary concept, I am, was there, but in a dormant condition. Later on, it started knowing itself. The yoni state is like the child state. When the child was not knowing itself, the apparatus through which that knowingness expresses itself is now quite different, but the principle is the same. The yonis will have different ways of expressing. Ramana Maharshi used to wear only a loincloth, just washed, not ironed. But here I would like to see that there are no wrinkles, very neat. There was another great sage who was not conscious of his body. He used to move about naked. Lord Krishna was also up to date like me and very well dressed. People get lost in the external expressions of a yani and try to imitate that instead of going to the presiding principle. Now, I thoroughly know that first moment. I know what is birth. Everything I know. Nevertheless, could I volitionally enter into that birth? What doership or authorship did I have to enter or not to enter, or to decide anything? When I say that I got the knowledge of my birth, do I really know directly what happened at that moment? This is all conceptual knowledge, and also all knowledge since then is conceptual. November 11th, 1980. There are sages or saints abounding all over, but they still aspire to be. They would like to continue their beingness. How long should I continue this waking state and deep sleep, waking state, deep sleep? So long as this cycle continues, the knowingness also will prevail there. Have you encountered anyone who is tired of this waking state and deep sleep state? In the waking state, you carry out a lot of activities, and when you are tired, you fall into sleep. In this continuous cycle, what is the advantage? It is said rarely somebody appreciates the skill of God. What is that skill of God? Where is that God? If you want to inquire about some skill, inquire about the skill of your parents. You have created a God because you want to beg from somebody, and that is what you call spirituality. I don't believe in that kind of God. I believe that God is that touch of I amness. As Maharaj says, if you really understood and digested what I have said, you would not set foot in this place. If I have understood what you have said, there is no need for me to come. It's all right. But let me ask you, factually, it is like, what do you mean by facts? Even to understand that, what should I do? Do that thing which you can't do. This world of Maya is built up of concepts only. I cannot charge the world with giving me the pain. The whole cause of the pain is this knowingness, I am. When this knowingness was not there, was there any pain or pleasure? If you want to encounter God, dive deep into your own self. That is the very storehouse of everything. How does the dream state happen? In deep sleep, there is an apparent waking state in which that I amness feels itself waking up and creates a dream world. You know very well how you proceeded into this mess. You inquire into this and keep quiet. After listening to my wildly virulent talks, you may not come tomorrow. It doesn't matter. I tell you again and again, you might run around and around the world, but nobody is going to give you the knowledge. Recede into your own self. Surrender to your own beingness, and that alone will give you all the knowledge necessary for you. No one else will. You don't inquire into this, you blindly follow the rituals of spirituality. You may be anywhere, but be honest. Be devoted only to your being. November 3rd, 1980. Is the witnessing done by that which is prior to consciousness, or does consciousness witness itself? Cross that bridge when you come to it. Don't worry about the principle prior to consciousness. You just be the consciousness. Are gods only concepts? Gods means consciousness only. Collect whatever you can in the absence of consciousness. We are not able to understand the state of a yani if the yani has become one with the Absolute. Where is the scope for the display of consciousness? We don't understand how a yani can be Paramatma and be here also. Translator. A yani can transcend consciousness and be the Absolute on demand. He can come into consciousness because that particular body is still available. Through that body, communication takes place with the beings in consciousness. The example given in our scriptures is like this. You have an ocean and the water from the ocean in a pot. Now that pot is dipped into the ocean. The pot is still there, but the water in the pot merges with the ocean water. So that water does not feel any difference. But the water in the pot can also witness the pot. It has the advantage of being one with the Absolute and to use the body also. With this example, I am able to understand what the state of a yani could be. Understand beingness and all will be solved. It is all speculation about that absolute state from your grosser state. Presently it is like a signboard indicative of the Parabrahman. The word Parabrahman is not Parabrahman. Your habit is to ask questions. A few words are flung at you, some concepts are given to you, you say that you understand. The only theme of my talks is you. You know you are. How and why do you know you are? It is only about that which I talk. You have no authority over this consciousness. It has come by itself and it will go by itself. You can't do anything with it. The whole idea of control is meaningless then. Yes, you have absolutely no authority over it. The very foundation is taken out from under us. All your moments of spirituality are based on that I am the body idea. This knowledge I am is going to remain for a short period. What about those who say they are the incarnations of this one or that one? Are they just ideas? This will be very clear to you when you remain in your real position. Until then, accept it if you like. Until you know your true state, you will accept all these hearsays because you don't know the truth. You need not go to that prior state. Presently, what you are, this primary concept, thrash it out. When you thrash it out, what you are prior to the concept is open. Normally, a jnani will not explain in such detail to a seeker. You have thoroughly studied the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. In his teachings, did you come across this aspect? The more I listen to Maharaj, the more I understand the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. Have you understood Ramana Maharshi? I can never understand because it is the absolute, not an object to be understood. I am not an object either. Yes, Ramana Maharshi is the absolute. You are also that. The absolute cannot be caught in the domain of your experience. You are convinced? Yes. Why did this beingness of mine happen? What was the cause? You must get to know what this is thoroughly. What is the point of trying to find out answers to these questions? Is it not sufficient for me to know that I am? That my beingness has appeared and will disappear? Why do I need to know all this? You must know. The knowingness is the outcome of what? The quality of what? It is a quality of food. Oh yes, but when do you come to know of it? It is not my experience. November 29th, 1980. This that I am, and the consciousness which is time-bound, what is the relationship? What is the concept of I with which you are trying to find a relationship? This is exactly where the misconception arises. In this concept of space and time, there is total manifestation, in that you consider that you are something separate. There is nothing separate. You are part of the function of the total manifestation. As absolute, I am timeless, infinite, and I am awareness, without being aware of awareness. As infinity, I express myself as space. As timeless, I express myself as time. Unless there is space and duration, I cannot be conscious of myself. When space and time are present, there is consciousness, in that the total manifestation takes place and various phenomena come into being. I, by myself, awareness, descend into consciousness, and in this consciousness, I express myself in manifold ways, in innumerable forms. This is the crux, the framework of manifestation. There is no question of any individuality. What is this? Holding up a bag of apples. There is no difference between this fruit, a goat, or a human being. They are all food products. All three are food. All creation, every creature, is made up of the 5 elements, and the behavior of each creature depends on the combination of the 3 guns, sattva, rajas, tamas. And there is no question of being responsible for something that happens in the world. It is only by taking delivery of responsibility that one suffers. The consciousness of being present, the 5 elements and the 3 gunas, that is the total of the universal manifestation. In your original state, there is no awareness of awareness, therefore no question of knowledge. The knowledge comes only with the appearance of the body and consciousness. This knowledge is really ignorance, and whatever knowledge is based on that is also ignorance. You have been practicing spirituality for many years. What do you have in hand? I am consciousness. That is my profit. Is this profit permanent? Is that your true nature? I identify myself with the total manifestation. All that. Is it not only after you got your consciousness? Go back to your state before this consciousness came upon you. First you identify with the body, then you identify with the consciousness. After a while you continue to be the consciousness, but the trap is that you will think you have become a jnani. Even being in consciousness is time-bound. The original state is before the consciousness came upon you. In one case the knowledge was given, it was understood, and the person became that in one day. Another took 1,000 years and also reached that state. Is there any difference? What was originally something which I loved, now I no longer want it because I am aware of my true nature. I no longer need this consciousness, even for 5 minutes. At the end of your life, you will be prepared to pay 5 lakhs of rupees for an extension of even 5 minutes. I am not prepared to give even 1 rupee. I have lost all love for this manifested world. You must maintain this knowledge I am in proper order. I quarrel with people if they don't keep these utensils in proper and clean order. Suppose this towel is left unwashed. Then I will play hell with whoever is responsible. All the dirt which is not the towel should be removed. Similarly, I am is the tool through which you get all the knowledge. You worship that I am. Remove all the adulterations, the dirt. How to worship the I amness? That knowingness alone points out all the dirt which is imposed on it. Even the space is not as pure as the knowledge I am. Innately the world is very pure. It is rendered dirty because you identify with the body. Since you do not recognize your I amness in its purity, you refer to various books and sages to get an identity. I am afraid of losing my beingness, my existence. Where's the question of worry? Even the Parabrahman does not know itself. When we come to the conclusion that you are not, I am not, what is left is said to be Parabrahman. But what is Parabrahman? You can't describe it, so you are silent. I am also silent. Parabrahman cannot be compared with anything. Is Nama Japa useful? By all means do it, and its worth will be proved in due course. You have to abide in that japa. It is no use conceptualizing what benefits you are going to derive from it. Follow it and realize the benefits. Even if the one following Nama Japa is like a donkey or a dud, he will become a great sage. That power is there in the recitation of a japa. When that person comes across the Satguru, the sage tells him, you need not take care of yourself because you are that immanent principle, I am. You need not take care of anything. You just be and everything will be taken care of for you. It is a pity that you depend so much on hearsay and you don't try to investigate for yourself. Your knowledge is confined to your body and borrowed knowledge. All the activities of the world are going on because of this I amness. It is the source which creates the world. Understand that I amness first. Only then can you transcend it. First of all, be that I amness. November 30th, 1980. This I amness is a function of nature, a product of the 5 elemental food body. It knows itself. It loves to be. With the aid of this knowingness, get to know yourself. Many eons have come and gone, but no person could retain his identity or his memory perpetually. It is gone with the departure of the body. The 5 element essences plus the 3 gunas means a person. With that, this knowingness comes. the memory I am. This personality is sustained by the provisions supplied by the 5 elements. So long as the provisions are supplied in proper order, the body and I amness will be there. Once the supply is stopped, the touch of I amness is gone. That which has come to see Maharaj, do you recognize that? Is it the body or something outside the body? Inside or outside, I don't know. Very good reply. Keep aside the body and describe that. I can't describe it. Since you can't describe that, what is the use of that? No use. Once you understand this, you will get the truth. The one which is listening, which you do not know, is you, and the one which you know as you. You are not. The highest purpose of spirituality is the Paramatman, that knowledge that indwells the body. I am. And that cannot be described. When you firmly agree that this is right, does it not mean that you have the spiritual wisdom? Who can get spiritual wisdom? Except you. Who could that be? You and you alone. Who could ask, who am I, but you? If the questioner, I, is not there, who is going to ask questions? This is the culmination of spiritual knowledge for you. You need not come again. I like to be with Maharaj. You can sit here. Now, whether you live 1 year or 1,000, the result will be this only. Maharaj answers my questions before I ask them. Initially, you accept what other people say, but in due course, whatever is accepted is thrown overboard. I cannot have any experience of how beingness came into being because I have no knowledge of what existed before being. This knowledge is very simple and at the same time very profound. Who will know all this process, the appearance of the knowingness and finally its disappearance? The one who understands this reaches the state of Satguru, but an ordinary person cannot understand this. Satguru is not the child of human parents. To know these secrets, to understand these secrets, you surrender to that very principle I am, and that consciousness alone will lead you to this. Presently stabilize in the consciousness. If you don't do that, your very concepts will be very dangerous to you. They will throttle you to death. The knowledge you are is the source of all energy and the source of all gods of all types of knowledge. Having heard these talks, you need not come again. You have only to abide in that consciousness you are, that very dynamic principle because of which everything is. Stabilize yourself therein. Confirm your stability there. You are only that. This is the simplest method. You know you are, just be there. December 7th, 1980. I want direct experience of the ultimate. The absolute cannot be experienced. It is not an objective affair. When I am unicity, then that is pure awareness which is not aware of its awareness, and there can be no subject and object. Therefore, there can be no witnessing. Any manifestation, any functioning, any witnessing can only take place in duality. There has to be a subject and an object. They are two, but they are not two. They are two ends of the same thing. When consciousness stirs, duality arises. There are millions of objects, but each object, when it sees another, assumes the subjectivity of the Absolute, although it is an object. I, as an object, perceive and interpret all the other objects, and I assume that I am the subject and the witnessing takes place. Why does consciousness stir? What is the cause? Without cause, spontaneously it happens. There is no reason. That consciousness is universal. There is no individuality. But when the consciousness stirs in a particular form which has also arisen spontaneously and starts functioning in that form assumes that it is an individual, and what is unlimited limits itself to a particular form, and the trouble starts. Let us say that someone has become a yoni, but what was it to begin with? It was that sour, bitter principle, that secretion because of which the consciousness has taken place. That very principle, the knowledge I am, has developed, grown, and become sweet. It matures and becomes the manifest jnani state. But what is that? It is the product of the 5 elemental food essence. When that goes, what remains? The absolute which does not know itself. The desire for liberation is also a desire, isn't it? Don't talk about liberation, talk about yourself, what you are. When you understand that, both knowledge and ignorance disappear. You only require knowledge so long as the ignorance is there. A knowledgeable person can tell anything to an ignorant person to remove his ignorance. For that purpose, he takes the aid of the so-called worldly knowledge, concepts, and both the worldly conceptual knowledge and the ignorance go simultaneously. A jnani will give you any concepts to remove your ignorance. This I amness is the knowledge, and you are embracing that. To remove that, he gives you all these concepts to understand that you are not this I amness, which is an outcome of the food essence product. Once you realize that, whatever concepts he has given you together with this I amness are to be thrown out. What remains is the absolute. This is the actual state of affairs. You can never say I am like this or that. You are without knowledge. Rarely will one understand this and transcend the domain of consciousness. After listening to my talks, you think it is very simple, but it is not that easy. December 9th, 1980. Here you will get to know what is, not what you expect to hear. Duality arises when consciousness arises. I am present and I know that I am present. That is duality. I am and I am not conscious of being present. That is unicity. There is only one. But when this conscious presence is there, then there is a sense of duality. Is a realized person aware of everything? Actually, no one is realized. There is only pure knowledge. It is only for reasons of communication that we say a person is realized. The knowledge has realized that it is knowledge. That is all that has happened. I am not the body. I am not the words. When knowledge recognizes this, it is called self-realization. The knowledge Maharaj is giving is for jnanis. What happens to the very simple man who is not able to comprehend this? Bhajans and meditation. By meditation, the knowledge which is immature will gradually grow into maturity. 1,000 years ago, people were primitive. They could not have understood this. It is only for developed minds, whether primitive or civilized. People can understand this. Even in those days, there must have been some to whom this knowledge did appear, and they instinctively understood. This knowledge is not new. It has always been in existence. People came to know instinctively. Why is it that India seems to be the cradle of this knowledge? No other country seems to have this knowledge. That is not so. This manifestation is the expression of the Absolute, and the manifestation may take various forms in various countries. Where it takes what kind of expression is immaterial. Basically, all is the manifestation of the Absolute. There is no cause and effect. No reason why one thing should be in one place and something else in another. What is to be found out is what one is by oneself. Can the guru give a push toward that knowledge? You think that you are one individual and the guru is another individual, but that is not so. Guru is the knower of this consciousness, which is temporary. Understand this curious situation. While I am talking to you, there is unbearable pain in the body. I have understood firmly that there are no individuals separate from one another, no knowledge separate as worldly knowledge and spiritual knowledge. There is no guru and no disciple. There is no God and no devotee. There are no opposites. They are a polaristic duality, not two separate parts, but two parts of the same one. I am convinced of that, and yet I am talking to you. You accept it as knowledge, and I give it as knowledge. Understand this amusing factor. The talks emanate spontaneously out of me. Prior to the emanation of the words, there is no meaning fabricated inside. There is no part played by the mind. It is direct spontaneity. What is the definition of consciousness as used by Maharaj? Consciousness, as it is used here, is this sense of being alive, of being present, the sense of existence. It is the love of being that is the source and cause of all desires. December 13th, 1980. The Absolute is unicity by itself, but it is expressed in manifold ways and forms. As Absolute, I have no experience of myself. The devotion without another is devotion to the self, where there is no duality. Once the duality comes, the devotion is divided between subject and object. Before birth, we were not conscious of ourself. Only when a foreign element, the birth, was introduced, did we become conscious of ourself. Apprehending this is awakening, and for this there is no path or technique. This is so subtle that I would like to speak more about it, but it is physically impossible for me to speak more than a few words. What I speak openly, others will not. The amount of receptivity each one has depends on his own luck. Understand also that what you hear from me, you cannot utilize. Whatever you hear will spontaneously do what it likes. And sitting here and listening to Maharaj is pure joy, even though it appears to be in duality. It strikes something deep inside. So long as there is that sense of duality amongst you, what you hear cannot reach the target. Understand what I am saying. The consciousness arises spontaneously. Once I am conscious of myself, I know I exist, and I love this beingness. I do not want this beingness to depart from me, and it is this that makes me strive all the day till sleep overcomes me in order to keep this love of beingness satisfied. Then the Guru tells me the true state of affairs, that this consciousness which I love so much is only an illusion. It is the basic cause of all unhappiness, and my true state is before this consciousness arose. That is beyond all concepts, and any name given is a concept. Understand it thoroughly, intuitively, beyond words, but also understand that that understanding can be of no use to you, because it is at the level of consciousness, and consciousness is illusory. What is being recorded and transcribed here will be of unimaginable value in course of time, when the basis of understanding will be broadened, and people will want to know what the state of affairs is. At that time, when this is exposed on a wider scale, there will be wonderment. These words will be few, but those who at a certain time will be proud of their own achievements. When they hear these few words, their own knowledge will evaporate, so suddenly they will be wonder-struck. I don't understand the way the word consciousness is used here. I thought consciousness was pure awareness, the ultimate reality. This consciousness, which depends on the food body, which is born, is time-bound. That which is prior to consciousness is the Absolute. And when consciousness is without a form and not aware of itself, it is the Absolute. We are nothing but this consciousness. You come here and I talk to you, but I am not concerned whether you come or go. I am totally independent. I, as the Absolute, do not need the consciousness. Total independence is merely to apprehend and understand. My apparent dependence is on this consciousness which says I am. It is this sentience which enables me to perceive you. This concept I do not have, but even then I existed. I was there before this consciousness appeared. Whatever you want, desire, or worship can only be concepts. Have you heard what is conceptual existence and what is existence prior to concepts? Many people have come here purely for spiritual purposes, and they have professed great love for me. Subsequently, some good fortune happens to them and they prosper, and in their prosperity they have no time to come here. All the earlier love is where? This is the province of Maya. A person comes with the sincere intention of a spiritual search, then this Maya shows him a little bit of temptation, and off he goes. This Maya does not operate independently. We are partners. Will he dare divorce himself from this Maya? No, he will accept that Maya. That ego, that I am so-and-so, is very difficult to get rid of. But the ego cannot touch one who really understands what I say. You will continue coming here as long as the concepts remain. Once you go beyond concepts, there will be no need to come here. Since when and because of what is what you think you are? December 23, 1980. When you observe a problem, any problem in the human mind, if you observe it very strong and pure, the problem dissolves and there is only observation. What is that observation? Who is that observation? And what is the essence of that observation? How to go further? This is a traditional way of understanding. It is a traditional mood of the world observation. Nothing beyond that. Just a mood. That's all. When did this process of observing start? It started with the arrival of the waking state, deep sleep state, and the knowledge I am, all rolled into one I am. This is known as birth. With the so-called birth, this triad has come, and with its arrival, observation started. Every day it is going on. The moment the I amness comes, it is being used for experiencing, observing, etc. Prior to the happening of this birth, where was that I amness? It was not there. Going on further, one is in observation, one is just observing. Is there any further question then? What should be the question? When does the observation occur and of what? You have collected a profound vocabulary, but the self-knowledge has not dawned. You see, that is what I was observing, how to inquire into that. You know you are. Because you know you are, everything is happening. Get to know that knowledge I am. When you understand what that I amness is, then the shell of the mystery is broken. What is the procedure to get to that? You go to the source out of which this question arose. That source will solve this question. Is there any inquiry in that? Oh yes, if anybody, any principle wants to pose the question, he should not embrace the body as himself. Pose the question from the standpoint that you are only the knowledge I am. You put the question because you don't know. Yes, but the primary ignorance is about our I amness. We have taken it as the ultimate. That is the ignorance. We presume that this consciousness is the eternal, the ultimate. That is the mistake. This I am principle is there provided the waking state and deep sleep are there. I am not the waking state. I am not the deep sleep state. Therefore I, the Absolute, am not that I am. Leave aside this triad. What are you? It comes again to the question, who am I? Understand clearly. When you keep aside the very instrument of questioning, where's the question? If you don't question, what you? You have removed that you. I don't know. How can you answer? What questions can you have without this triad? Let us presume that you are 50 years old. You have had the association of that triad for 50 years. Go behind now. 5 years earlier, what was your experience? What were you like? I don't know. That is correct. It was a no-knowing state. In that no-knowing state, suddenly knowingness has appeared. It has created all this mischief. Since when are you and how long will you continue to be? Well, I would say since I have been experiencing and for as long as I am experiencing. Right. Now, without the experience of I amness, talk something about that. I can't. The association with this triad state, this bundle of mischief, due to what? For example, a building is on fire. It is said because of a short circuit in the electricity. The arrival of this triad due to what? Short-circuiting. There was some friction. When you press here on the cigarette lighter, the flame is there because of the friction or short-circuiting. All the three states are aflame. And the flame is I am. I have been born into this. Because of that triad, you are experiencing life and doing spirituality also. At the end, there is no question at all. No who am I or what am I? If I put aside this triad, there can only be silence. Silence or peace is related to chaos or turbulence. It has nothing to do with peace and turbulence. I mean, if you just sit quiet in yourself, leaving aside these three states, knowing that I don't know myself, you can only be silent. What you say is impossible. The knowingness will be there provided waking state and deep sleep are there. If they are not available, you would not have been here in this form. If you had the capacity to know before birth that you were being born, you would not have cared to jump into this pit of birth. December 24th, 1980. There is a great difference in my present state. Earlier, when I listened to bhajans, I was conscious of the words and the deeper meaning of the words, and I was totally involved in the bhajans. Now, my consciousness reacts only to the extent that there is consciousness of the bhajans taking place, but no involvement. I am no longer concerned with anything to do with me or mine. This sense of me and mine is so strong that there can be quarrels over nothing more than a piece of cloth, with no intrinsic value, simply because of the identification of mine. This consciousness is nothing but energy. When the body essence grows weaker, the consciousness grows weaker, and ultimately will leave. Nothing is dead. Food is one item that keeps this energy in good order. I take hardly any treatments, but I do have my body massaged. This massage revives the warmth in the body, which is the energy. So the energy in the body, which tends to be lax and cold, is warmed up again by the massage. What is born is the waking and sleeping states and the concept of time and consciousness. Once this consciousness is conscious of itself, it takes on certain items as its own, because of conditioning and others as not its own, and it will fight for and try to protect those which it considers its own. When consciousness realizes its potential power, its universality, the me and mine concept is lost. This universal consciousness is known as God, which is the Almighty, the omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. All the attributes. These attributes are given to God in consciousness, not to the Absolute. The Absolute is without attributes. December 27th, 1980. The trouble is, everybody wants to have the knowledge of the self without giving up the identification with the body. They are contradictory. Give up this identification and everything becomes simple. I am, therefore anything can happen. If anyone is asked whether he knows when the sky came into existence, he will say he does not know. He does not know because he considers his presence only as a phenomenon. When the body was there, that the sky was not there, I know. And who is this? It is the one who is prior to everything. My true nature is not circumscribed by the concept of time and space. When you hear this, you promptly get confused and say, in that case, how can I carry on my normal business? Understand your true nature, and then do any amount of business you like. I say all this with great sincerity and great urgency. People hear it but do not give up the identification with the body. They hang on to it with great determination. Even the statement that you existed before the sky existed will not be acceptable to you. A child may be playing with the smallest coin, and if it is removed will be greatly agitated. You accept your identification with the same determination, the same anxiety, in spite of the knowledge which you are being given. Even if you give a child a toy made of gold, he will reject it because he has his heart set on that small coin. Even if I give you this knowledge, which is priceless, it will not be acceptable. The sound which first comes to denote the presence I am not. I am neither the presence nor the sound denoting the presence. Whatever one sees or perceives, that one must be prior to what is seen or perceived. It is simple. When this knowledge of the self gets firmer and firmer, we are no longer attracted to those things which had previously attracted us so much. You see me talking, apparently at ease, but there is continual suffering, particularly between 2 and 4 p.m. The existence of this consciousness itself becomes unbearable. This is no one else's experience. I experience it myself. What is being recorded now, when it is typed and put into a book form and someone reads it, what will he make of it? He will say that he cannot imagine anyone having lived who could say this. The actual fact now is that I have reached a stage where it would require good fortune for anyone to have even a sight of that principle. The words are so profound there is deeper meaning behind them. Presently only fortunate people will listen to my talks. I repeatedly tell you that there is nothing save this consciousness, the knowledge I am. If you feel like worshiping something, worship that. I am giving blessings. Blessings mean what? I am giving confidence and courage. December 28th, 1980. Can any of your concepts grasp the total, the ultimate? Have you understood that knowledge itself is ignorance? If it were real, it would have been there eternally. It would not have had a beginning and an end. Now the experience I am is felt. Earlier that experience was not. When it was not, no proof was called for. But once it is, lots of proof is required. How did you wake up in the morning? Why did you wake up at all? It is not the mind which knows. Somebody knows because of the mind. Now my hand is lifted. Who knows? The one who has lifted my hand knows it has lifted it. You are before the mind. Because you are there, the mind is working. When will you wake up? Provided you are, you wake up. Through the concepts of others, you have built up so many things around you that you are lost. You is decorated and embellished by the concepts of others. Prior to receiving any hearsays from outside, has anyone any information about himself? The purpose of Satguru is to tell you what you are like prior to the building up of all those concepts of others. Your present spiritual storehouse is filled up with the words of others. Demolish those concepts. Satguru means the eternal state which will never be changed. What you are. You are that immutable, eternal, unchangeable absolute. Satguru tells you to get rid of all these walls built around you by the hearsays and concepts of others. You have no form, no design. The names and forms you see are your consciousness only. The self is colorless, but it is able to judge colors, etc. The one who is directed by a Satguru has no more birth. Your sadhana is over. You have reached this place. To you who search for the self, I explain this type of knowledge. I lead you to a state where there is no hunger, no desire. When you have knowledge, you see the I as all-pervasive, as long as the consciousness is there. But the witness of the consciousness has no I am. That is your true, eternal nature. Giving up the body is a great festival for me. December 29th, 1980. Sitting in meditation helps the consciousness to blossom. It causes deeper understanding and spontaneous change in behavior. These changes are brought about in the consciousness itself, not in the pseudo-personality. Force changes are at the level of the mind. Mental and intellectual changes are totally unnatural and different from the ones that take place in the birth principle. These take place naturally, automatically by themselves, due to meditation. Most of the people see the tree of knowledge and admire it, but what is to be understood is its source, the seed, the latent force from which it sprouts. Many people talk about it, but only intellectually. I talk about it from direct knowledge. A small speck of consciousness, like a seed, has all the worlds contained in it. The physical frame is necessary for it to manifest itself. All the ambitions, hopes, and desires are connected with an identity, and so long as there is an identity, no truth can be perceived. Is there any destiny for the total manifestation or the phenomenon as a whole? As there is no single identity, where will it go? The fuel is the destiny of the flame, so also the food essence body is the destiny of the consciousness. Consciousness alone offers destiny, and destiny offers suffering. Because of the mistaken identity, we think of personalized consciousness, but actually it is vast and limitless. The source of consciousness is prior to time and space. Manifestation needs time and space, but the source of consciousness was there before manifestation took place. The manifestation has 5 elements, 3 gunas, and above all, consciousness, the I amness. Now, how can anything be without my conscious presence? Even the elements cannot exist without me. I do not do anything. I do not create anything. They happen because of my conscious presence. My presence is throughout, and I say this with conviction. Some may read these words, some may have heard these words, some may hear the tape recordings, some may want to hear but will be thrown so far away from the tapes due to circumstances that it won't be possible. There are millions of varieties of forms in the total manifestation, but the source of all is the consciousness. What is this consciousness? Does anyone think along these lines? In dreams, one sees moons, stars, etc., but the identity is not there. The consciousness has to be understood during the waking state. People come and go, sights come and go, elements come and go, but I remain. I am conscious of my consciousness, and then alone the whole show is there. Suppose a very important person is coming to visit in 2 months. The houses are decorated, the stands are put up, the streets are decorated, a lot of show is there. Why? It is due to that VIP. Some people fast for a month and take a lot of hardships on themselves, but they expect to get back more than they give away. People look everywhere but to the source. Exclude this birth energy and see if anything can be done by anyone. We limit this limitless energy to the simple phenomena which is one body. Intently examine the words. If my conscious presence is not there, what will I be? I enjoy the words that come up spontaneously and watch how true and unconditional they are. A murderer is loose. He has committed many murders, and the international police are after him but unable to catch him. That is like the traditional scriptures not being able to locate or find the absolute. It is beyond the grasp of the Vedas, Puranas, etc., because it is not conceptual. This murderer is very proud to escape all the efforts of the police force. He is so fearless he sits where the plans to catch him are discussed, and hence he cannot be caught. Everyone has to die. So die as your true nature. Why die as a body? Never forget your true nature. It may not be acceptable to many, but it is a fact. If you must have an ambition, have the highest, so that at least while dying you will be the absolute. Decide that now, firmly, with certainty and conviction. A tiger is coming at you. You know that when he attacks you, death is certain. So why die like a coward? Attack him and maybe he will run away. But if the tiger is passing by, do not unnecessarily attack him. Only when absolutely necessary, jump on him. God is great and Maya is vast, but what are you in the end? The mental modifications take you away from the self. Nobody wants to inquire about the self deeply and thoroughly. Everybody inquires on a superficial level. My mind does not stay quiet. It goes here and there. With all these ramblings you will be entertained, but you will not obtain knowledge. This is all spiritual entertainment, because the factual state of affairs is that what you are, without modifications. The desires are there, they will keep on demanding. Finally, what are you? I am nothing, mind, etc. keeps on going. Then why are you learning all this? To serve the people. So many great people have rendered so many great services, but where are they now? So many waves come and go. I want to pass my time by having no desires and serving others. Do what you like. Rain falls and renders service to the beings. It does not suffer while rendering services. All the beings that come about are sustained due to rain. Are they happy? They are all suffering. I too do not have peace. How does Maharaj see us? I see everyone as I am. This being is the combination of the parents. All are engrossed in concepts. They enjoy them. When I am one with music, etc., it is all joy, but when I am in conflict, it is all misery. Sometimes I feel angry. Why? Mind and body and their actions and reactions is not my subject. I do not deal with these problems. There are numerous other people who can deal with such problems. But almost all people are on the side of body-mind. 1 in 1,000,000 is open to you. Ask about yourself. Do not bother about others. On one side, I feel attracted toward silence, and yet I feel that millions suffer and sages do not do anything about them. Because their suffering is illusory. I know that there are 4 states: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and a state beyond all 3. I can understand intellectually, but still suffering is there. Get rid of all the 4 states and also rid the people of their suffering. Let the illusory world take care of itself. You must find out who you are. I want to practice naturopathy and teach others and learn wisdom myself. By developing these concepts, you will not come out of it at all. First understand what is circumstantial and what is real. You are the product of the concepts of your parents, are you not? Yes, at a conceptual level. Mind and all concepts are due to your primary concept, I am. Your parents and you are simultaneous concepts. Now, without trying to experience, what experience are you having? I am. Is it not a concept? There are concepts formed from concepts. It is a vast world of concepts. I would like to be free from them. This is to be realized by oneself. It is not to be passed on by word of mouth. Who is obtaining the self-knowledge directly? When did I happen to be? I must know about it myself, firsthand, not from others. You are, and you know you are. This is the great Lord, the sudden, explosive effulgence. Surrender to it, and you will know all. It is without form or name. It is to be abided in by firm conviction. You could not see and judge the quality of light if you were not light yourself. You are that subtle knowledge, and if that is there, then only everything else is possible.